Good afternoon, and thank you for being here for the District 4 School Board Candidate Forum. My name is Stephen Henry, and I am the President of the Metropolitan Nashville Education Association. Tonight's forum is jointly hosted by the Urban League of Middle Tennessee, the Metropolitan Nashville Education Association, and the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce. We'd also like to welcome our candidates, Rhonda Dixon, Anna Shepard, and Pam Swanner. Also thanks to Two Rivers Middle School for opening their building to us. The candidates will be asked a set of structured questions developed by our host, and these questions will be asked at all 4 of the forums. Candidates will have 60 seconds to answer each question, and our timekeeper will let us know when each candidate meets their time limit. That's what you'll hear, but you'll hear it a little louder. Following this segment, questions will be opened up to the audience. Lastly, to follow along tonight's discussion or to share things that you find interesting, you can use the hashtag SchoolBoard4 to tweet. So let's begin with the first questions developed by our host. Ms. Dixon, why are you running for the school board?
I was inspired to run for the school board because of my granddaughter, China. China went to the 5th grade, reading on a 2nd grade level. I was just so upset by that. I mean, how do you expect a child to succeed in school when she's not even reading at her grade level? I did find a school for her, and the school has really helped her. It has pushed her, it set expectations high for her. And because of that school, she has done so well. I am so proud to say that right now she is excelling in every subject. So I decided that we need to make sure that all our children have access to quality schools. It's very important. It's important to your children. It sure is important to my China. So that's why I'm running for school board.
I'm running for re-election to the School Board District 4. I want to keep the positive momentum that we have going in the district and specifically in the McGavock cluster moving in the right direction. As little as 5 years ago, the McGavock High School was in danger of state takeover. In January of this year, the President of the United States visited McGavock High School because it is the shining star among the high schools in Davidson County, and I want to keep that momentum going. The success stories that we've had at McGavock, we are pushing out into the middle schools. There are 4 that feed into the McGavock cluster, and I wanted to keep, and we're putting those programs in the middle schools, and they are turning around, and they are succeeding as well. We have great community support in the schools in the McGavock cluster, and I want to keep that community support moving in the right direction, and I will do that when I'm re-elected to the school board.
I'm running because my community has become unstable, and education is the reason my neighbors are moving. I believe we are transitioning to a technology-based learning model. Technology in moderation is a good thing, but in the process our children are losing the chance to make impressions. Research shows that children that learn through experiences remember better. If you consider taking an iPad and touching an icon that's hot and says cold, and then placing a piece of ice in their hand, which one do they remember? That makes a lifelong learning experience. I'm concerned that we're losing too many of our good, experienced teachers. How can we build a great system with no experience? We're spending too much time on testing. We spend days preparing and giving tests. Yet our children are allowed 15 minutes of recess a couple of times a week. Band and music are considered recess. I believe physical activity is essential for growing, bright, healthy children, and we need to make room in our curriculum for time outdoors.
Thank you. Question number 2. What do you perceive to be the greatest challenge facing public education in Nashville? Ms. Shepard.
I think that one of our greatest challenges is actually one of our greatest gifts, our diversity. We no longer have a majority in our school system in Metro Nashville Public Schools, but we are a plurality district. We have at least 130 languages spoken in our district. We, last year, the Board of Education actually adopted a diversity plan, just so we can make sure that we do not leave out our children that are not that are English language learners. And they present, an English language learner does present a challenge because those students go home and speak their native language, yet they're expected to come to school and learn and take the same assessments that our children that are raised here take. So we are really making sure that we keep a keen eye on these issues, make sure that we reach each and every child and provide them what they need to succeed in our school district. And I think that we all learn from a diverse population.
Thank you.
I think the greatest challenge is keeping our experienced teachers. We're losing them at an alarming rate. It takes 5 to 7 years for a teacher to become proficient, and most of the replacement teachers are fresh out of college and signing 2 to 3 year contracts. We need stability in our schools. We do not need to develop a revolving door instructor system. Here again, the reason we're losing so many of our teachers is excessive testing. We need experienced teachers that are trusted and given the time to take their ideas and inspire their students.
I think one of the greatest challenges that public education faces here in Nashville is that our schools, we have too many inequalities in our school system. We have some good schools, and then we have some schools that are underserving our children. We need to make sure that all our schools are good schools, and right now that is not happening. In some places, we have schools that are in review status and target status. That should not be. Nashville is a world-class city. We should have world-class schools, and that is a challenge because we're not there yet, and we need to make sure that our schools are all good schools.
Question 3. If you had to pick one indicator of student achievement that was the most important to focus on, what would it be? Ms. Warren.
I believe that reading is the most important indicator. Reading is a very complex process. When children begin to read, they begin to think. They begin to learn about solving problems. The brain begins to organize all the information, and that lasts through their life. Reading makes future learning easier. If a child is having trouble reading, it doesn't matter where they come into the system. That is a point where we need to evaluate them because that determines their future. When a child can read, it allows them to open and step through the doors of our universe.
College admission scores, I think that is one of the things that we need to focus on as far as being a good measure of achievement. Right now, every child in Tennessee has to take the ACT test. The children in Nashville, when they take the ACT test, there's 27.7% has a 21 or higher ACT score. That leaves almost more than 70% that are not getting ACT scores that are at least 21. We just can't accept that. So we need to make sure that our children have the structure, the curriculum, and the foundation to make sure that they get great ACT scores. That's very, very important. It's just a measure to make sure that our children are ready when they graduate high school, that they can go on to college or to workforce. So I believe that we really need to concentrate on ACT scores.
There are many assessments that we give our students in school, and some grades take more assessments than others. I'm really not sure that there is one assessment that we give that would be an indicator to success. Mastering of a particular subject might be easier for some children than others, and some children may master a subject, yet for some reason they don't assess well. I think that, when you have an assessment for a student who is in the School of the Arts, that assessment or that indicator would look different than someone who is perhaps, say, at an academic magnet. I think that another indicator for success might be a job that a high school graduate gets upon graduation. So I think there are different types of assessments depending upon the situation.
Question 4. The current director of schools contract is scheduled to expire next year. As a member of the school board, what will you look for in the next director of schools? Ms. Dixon.
In my position at work, I work for quality assurance. So I am responsible for making sure that the products we deliver are quality. What we need from our next superintendent is a person who's going to make sure that we deliver quality education to our children. That is first and foremost. There are a lot of things that can fall up under that, but that's what we need to focus on. I deliver quality products. We want to make sure that our next superintendent will make sure that our children are receiving the best education possible.
I think that Metro Nashville Public Schools needs a visionary leader, very much so like we have in Dr. Register. This last year, the school board adopted the strategic plan in 2018, and that was an initiative that was led by Dr. Register, and it is a comprehensive goal set for us so that we know exactly what quality education, quality instruction looks like for the next 5 years. I think that we will continue that positive momentum with the strategic plan. I think we need to craft a search around someone who will come in and support our strategic plan instead of trying to brand what education reforms look like to him or her who comes in.
I agree with Anna in some of this because I would look for someone also that has the vision to plan for future generations as well as addressing the needs of today. Nashville will go through a lot of changes in the next few years. Already we are seeing more children coming into the school system than were anticipated. The next director, he should be very open-minded and willing to listen and have the ability to work with every component of the public school system. And I would say this would include teachers, parents, principals, school board members, service employees, transportation agencies, and all levels of government. And then last but most important, the next director should have a passion for excellence in the public education system and always put our children first.
What are your thoughts about the Academies of Nashville model in Metro's 12 zoned high schools? Ms. Shepherd?
The Academy model brings real-life learning and project-based learning to our students on a daily basis and really enriches their high school experience. It brings our businesses partnering with our students in the classroom and so that they can have real-life experiences. It allows them to have externships. It allows them to have an experience with the businesses that partner with them. The Academy models give our local businesses an opportunity to come and have buy-in in the school so they can shape what our workforce is going to look like for them so that they know what they're going to be looking at. At McGavock High School, we have a working credit union in that high school. We have a working lab in that high school. We have an airplane that really works in that high school. We have all these things that bring real-life experiences to our kids. The possibilities are endless. The Academy model, for me, is a perfect day modern blend of the vocational school and the college prep classes of yesteryear.
I think the academies are helping many students. They give an opportunity to learn about many career paths and then they delve into their specific interests. The academy structure divides the student body into small learning communities, and that allows each group to develop friendships that last them throughout their lifetime. While corporate sponsorship has helped the academies, in many ways I'm concerned about how much emphasis is put on the particular subject once that happens. When an automobile manufacturer sponsored a high school, the automotive shop took over the greenhouse, and now you find car parts there instead of plants. The horticulture teacher was transferred to another school, and several students were left behind without leadership. I volunteered at that school and attempted to resurrect the greenhouse so the students could grow plants for a fundraiser. The car parts were never moved out of the greenhouse. One other issue about the academies, a student is only allowed to change their career path one time. It would be helpful to change that rule.
You know, I think the concept of the academies is great. My granddaughter today thinks she wants to be a chef, and that's absolutely wonderful. Under the Academy's model, she would have a taste of what chef life would be like. But my concern about the Academy is that we still have ACT scores that are not 21. A lot of our students, as I said before, almost 70% or more, their ACT scores are 18. So while the Academies is a great concept. What I would like to see is more strenuous academic rigor. Because if my granddaughter graduates high school and decides, you know what, I don't want to be a chef, I want to be a doctor. She is not going to get into a good school to be a doctor with an ACT score that's less than 21. So I think the academy concept, again, I think it's an excellent idea. But I think we need to also put more emphasis to make sure that our children are ready for something other than what they've been exposed to through the academy.
Next question. As a board member who will help determine how the district allocates its operating budget, what budget areas would you want to see prioritized? Ms. Swan.
We must invest in the best and most experienced teachers available and quality student support staff. We can spend millions of dollars on buildings, but a building does not educate our children. Our teachers do. Schools must have the resources they need and a procedure to follow to get them in a timely manner. Constant oversight to make sure all money is spent wisely. Every dollar should directly affect the education of our children.
No doubt, our priority should be making sure that our students and our children receive good quality education. What we need to concentrate on is taking that money from central office and pushing it down to the classroom. We need to give our principals, our teachers, the autonomy to make financial decisions for their school and their students. They know what their children need. So that's what we need to do. Make the priority quality education for our children.
I think we need to keep a laser look on the basic education program or the BEP funding. Right now, districts such as our schools in Metro do not receive adequate funding from the BEP formula. And so we need to make sure that we right that wrong and make sure that we receive what we need to receive for our children. Every year, we as a board go before the mayor and the council and asking for an increase. Thankfully, they're generous enough to give us that increase. If we had the funding from the state like we need, then it would not fall on the backs of our local citizens nearly as sharply as it does now.
Next question. Metro Schools has a new academic performance framework, which ranks schools into excelling, achieving, satisfactory, and the lowest level target. What should the district do about schools that consistently underperform at the target level? Ms. Dixon.
We should never have a school consistently perform at the target level. After year one, if that school is at target level, we should immediately have something in place, a plan already in place to address schools that hit review or target status. And we should go and find out determine what that plan is, what is looking at our schools that are achieving and excelling, and take whatever they're doing, bring those best practices, bring them down to that target school. If we have to change our leadership, our principals and teachers, then that's what we need to do. But we should not end year two with a target school. So consistency should not be part of this equation.
The first thing that we need to ask ourselves when we have a school that performs at that level is why. And once we have determined why, then the next question we need to ask is how do we fix it? We need to make sure that we give the staff, the principal and the staff, the teachers, the tools to work with to be successful. If they don't exist in the buildings, then we need to make sure that they are removed and that we put it in the building to make it successful. 1 year in the life of an educational experience for a child is a long time, and you can never get that back. So we need to make sure that we don't have a repeat of a target status in any school that we have.
Many books have been written about the way these rankings are determined. Most agree the process is unreliable and subject to interpretation. When I look at APF rankings, the same school bounces from a score of 1 to 5 back to 1, and this is year 1, 2, and 3. I can't understand why a school can go from the lowest performing to the highest and then back again within 3 years. So I question the accuracy of the algorithms. I've met too many children that are brilliant. There's something else going on, and the data points need to be re-examined. I believe we should work to find a more accurate measure of school performance and not depend on APF rankings.
Question A, do you support the implementation and measurement of Common Core state standards in metro schools? Ms. Shepherd.
Last year, I had the opportunity to attend the National School Board Association conference, and at that conference, they offered a 4-hour, very structured, very intense workshop around Common Core. And during that workshop, I discovered that Common Core offers a very holistic approach to learning and instruction. With Common Core learning, you cannot give a rote answer or an answer by memorization. You have to have a true, deep understanding of the subject matter. And these students are learning these subject matters because they are having a deeper instruction and deeper learning of the material. So I do absolutely support Common Core learning.
Common Core has many good qualities. However, it was prematurely launched without proper planning or field testing. I do believe Common Core is a good product. Yes, but teachers should have had the training and tools they needed before they started. I do believe standardized tests are the best way to measure the academic progress of a student. No. I will support performance-based assessments, which is a truer measure of student abilities and progress. Several areas in other states are using PBAs and finding unanimous support from teachers and parents.
I support high expectations. I think that is what really helped my granddaughter. But with Common Core, that's exactly what it is. They're standards. It's not a curriculum. And so I do support it. I think what we need to do is make sure that we give our teachers the tools they need to implement it. But when I go knocking on doors, I've talked to my constituents and I've heard a couple of things. One, they either don't understand it because they think it's a curriculum. But the other thing that they're concerned with is that they feel that Common Core standards, those who understand what they are, might be too much for our younger students. So if I am on the board, I would make sure that we keep a watchful eye on Common Core and make sure that we monitor and answer to our constituents.
The school board operates under a system called policy governance, which defines the roles and responsibilities of the board and how they carry out decisions. There's been recent talk of the board changing that policy governance. What is your position on this issue, Ms. Swanner?
A few years ago, the Metro School Board voted to adopt policy governance. The principles were developed in 1970. This school board inherited the policy from past school board members. The members of our school board chose to serve the children and parents of their district because they have a passion for education and a love for our city. The teachers and parents are trusting the board to take care of school business. The future of our children depend on it. If these principles and policies are hindering the progress of the school board, then they should either be amended, changed, or eliminated.
I support policy governance. You know, our school district is comprised of 9 different areas and 9 districts. If we don't have policy governance, we have 9 people doing 9 different things, having 9 different goals and 9 different agendas. It impacts the effectiveness of what a school board should be. Right now, the school board is responsible for making sure that the superintendent delivers quality education. We need to make sure, as a school board, that we hold our superintendent accountable. I don't think that we need to do away with policy governance. We just need to make sure that the roles are clearly defined.
Policy governance is absolutely the model that the Board of Education should follow. We may have 1 or 2 of my colleagues who have spoken out against it, but the rest of the board is 100% behind policy governance. It is absolutely the way that we need to operate. We have had deep and meaningful discussions around policy governance, and we will continue to have deep and meaningful conversations around policy governance. It is definitely the model that we need to follow because it absolutely keeps our superintendent on task, and he is our only employee.
Next question. For the past several years, the state legislature has proposed a school voucher program that would allow students to attend private schools using public funding. Do you favor a school voucher program from Nashville? Ms. Dixon.
No, I don't think we should use public funds to invest in private institutions. No, not in Nashville, no.
Public funds should never be used for private education. It's just inherently wrong. In Metro Nashville Public Schools right now, we have over 80 choice options, 80 choice options. So we have true choice within our district, and we need to always, we're always looking for ways to offer more choice. In fact, this fall, we will open 3 pre-K hubs with over 300 seats for the pre-K program. Does that fully fund, we will still have seats that are available, but we're moving in the right direction even with budgetary constraints.
I'm in agreement. I do not favor a school voucher program either. We should not dilute our resources by sending public money to private institutions.
Next question. As a school board member, you will have the opportunity to review many applications to open new charter schools in our city. Do you believe that we should have more charter schools? Ms. Shepherd.
Charter schools are just one of the ways that we offer school choice, where we may reach a point, or may already have reached a point, where charter schools will begin to impede the resources of our zone schools. We need to make sure that we have the responsibilities for all of our students in all of our schools. And we also have to be fiscally responsible for our taxpayers. Last year, we adopted a resolution that the charter school applicants would be required to locate in the southeast portion of our county, because that's where we have the greatest growth, and that's where we have the greatest need. I believe that charter schools could be beneficial for us as a district if they're managed properly. Uncontrolled growth of charter schools could eventually lead to the need to increase our taxes to support the education of our students in our zone schools.
Charter schools have a place in Nashville, but opening too many too quickly could have a serious negative fiscal impact on our zone schools. As our city continues to grow, we must choose wisely how and where new schools are allowed to open. More information is needed, and a study has been approved. When that information is ready, we will see how to proceed.
Ms. Dixon.
We need good schools in Nashville. It doesn't matter if it's a charter school, magnet school, traditional school. We just need good schools. I know that charter school may not be for everyone, but for my family, it was a very good option. I have 2 grandchildren. My oldest one, who I'm taking care of, I am responsible for her. The charter school helped her get to where she is. But I also have another granddaughter who goes to a traditional school, and that is perfectly fine for her. So as long as the charter school is a good, high-performing school, I would welcome it. Right now, we need to make sure that our families have options. When I knock on doors, and I've been knocking on quite a few here, there are so many families where their children are in private schools or they're doing homeschooling. We need options. So yes, I will welcome a good performing, high performing charter school. Yes.
And now we'll take our first audience questions. What do you think most distinguishes you from your opponents?
I think what distinguishes me the most is that I have a background that is much different than theirs. I worked for an international company and wore many hats, actually. I prepared all the international documentation, and I worked as a marketing and sales coordinator. While I was working at this company, we had many trade shows. I had 60 distributors. I had event plannings. And working with the representatives from each of these countries, I learned so much about how global markets work. And this is something that I think distinguishes me from my ladies.
I believe that my business experience As I stated earlier, I have worked almost 40 years in quality assurance. I am responsible for making sure that I deliver quality products. I work with teams, and often these teams they're all over the place. But it's my job to make sure that I bring them back together so that we remain focused on what is truly important, delivering quality products. And in my case, our customers are patients. I work for a healthcare industry, so I have to make sure. I think that I can bring this business acumen to the board, and that it will help make it a stronger board through my leadership. I'm also a grandmother. I'm raising 2 grandchildren, well, actually raising 1. I have 2 grandchildren in MNPS school. I am almost 60 years old. I should not be raising a child. I didn't think I'd be raising a child and putting her through school, but I am. And I welcome this responsibility. So I have skin in this game, and you have skin in this game. So I think it's very important to know that I will work hard because I really care about what happens with the children. I just think that I bring a lot to the board.
Ms. Shepherd?
First of all, I think that my record speaks for itself. For the last 4 years, I've worked tirelessly in the McGavock cluster in all of my schools, and I have a presence in each and every one of them. I've worked very hard on the board. I have worked with my colleagues very well. I have thoroughly enjoyed this. In my day job, I'm also working in the accounting department, so I have a business knowledge of how this huge district should work. We had 3 children that went all the way through this district and graduated from McGavock High School, and they've all done very well. I now have 2 grandchildren that go to school in this district, and they are also doing very well. So I have a dedication towards the entire district and specifically towards the McGavock cluster.
The next question will begin with Ms. Dixon. In your work on behalf of our schools, what achievements are you the most proud of?
I think what I'm most proud of, I have worked quite a bit with Liberty Collegiate Academy. And so I have been very proud to say that working with those students, seeing the background that they have come from, and just knowing that I've been part of this family has really been very rewarding. Because some of these children have struggled. And to see them where they were in the 5th grade and seeing them rising 8th graders and how much they have accomplished, and knowing that I was a part of that, working very hard with the staff, has just really made me feel very proud to be part of this family.
Well, that's difficult to answer in 1 minute, but I'll give it a shot. Last May, the McGavock Cluster Coalition awarded 68 $500 scholarships to seniors at McGavock High School. And I still get chills thinking about that because these students that we have been talking about this now for 4 years, this came to fruition last May, and these students were the first ones to receive these scholarships. They each got $500 to the school of their choice, and it was a very moving experience. It was a very moving day, and afterwards we had a luncheon for them and their parents, and they all came up to express their gratitude at having received this. This is the only cluster that does that, and I'm very proud of our students and our teachers and faculty and all of our students.
I am a Davidson County Master Gardener, and we have calls every day asking from schools asking for people to come and help teach our children how to learn about plants, about growing, healthy living, nutrition, and I have been involved in that since 2009. Currently, this week, I have a junior camp, although I played hooky today because of this. But we've had 25 young, active children trying to teach them how to plant in the rain. So it's been quite it's been a challenge this week. But we have taught so many children and worked with schools and the principals and the teachers to try and help develop these programs I think that's and the community gardens is my greatest accomplishment.
Thank you. The next question will begin with Ms. Shepherd. In your opinion, is McGavock High School a successful school?
Oh my goodness. Absolutely. It's a very successful school. Robin Wall was one of the very first lead principals named by Dr. Register, and it was because of his leadership style within that school. When he came there, he made the changes. They were tough changes. He made the changes he needed to make, and that school has turned around completely from the time he came to the time till this past year. We have several. There's so many clubs in there that have competed on a national level. They have won prizes on a national level. If you go to the school at all, you can see the children have a pride in their school. They love being there. They love being at that school. Mr. Wall loves his students, but he doesn't play, as they say. He runs a tight ship, but yet he has a very successful, very good success story at that school. I'm in the school at least twice a week, and I can tell you that there's so many success stories at that school. It's wonderful.
As far as I know, McGavock High School is a successful school. I've heard many things that where it's turned around. I have also asked realtors in the area why I am losing neighbors to Wilson County and why people are purchasing lots in Wilson County so they can send their children to Wilson County schools. And they tell me that there's a perception about the middle schools and McGavock where they do not want to send their children there. I do not know why they continue to feel that way, but it is a perception from the parents that I'm talking to right now.
Well, McGavock High School, I have to agree with Ms. Shepherd. It has come a long way, but I also have to agree with Ms. Swarner because I have knocked on doors and I've heard the same thing from some of my constituents. So with that being said, I think McGavock High School is on its way, but we have to make sure that McGavock increases their academic so that they can achieve higher ACT scores. Right now, I think the average McGavock, the average high school score for McGavock graduates is about 17.6. We need to raise that. So I think that they're on a good track, but we need to make sure that they continue to be on a good track.
The next question from our audience will begin with Ms. Swanner. What is your opinion about the annual teacher evaluation that is partially based on student data?
I think that's why we're losing a lot of good teachers. There's so many irregularities with that situation. Teachers they don't have the students in their class sometimes. There are students that are constantly coming in through transition, and yet they are held responsible for those scores when they actually never taught the students. So I think that some of that frustration and the anxious feeling, I would not want that to be, that doesn't seem fair to me.
Well, I believe that we need, I hope you can hear me. I believe we need some kind of way to measure teachers' performance. And the fairest way right now is based upon student outcomes. That is the only way that we have right now. It may not be perfect, but we have to have something to know that our teachers are performing. So I would say based upon student outcomes, it's a tool.
Keeping in mind that a lot of the rules and regs that we have to follow don't come from the district, they do come from the state level, and that is one of them that comes from the state level. Having said that, we do need an accountability system. We do need to make sure that the teachers are doing what they need to do and that they're teaching the subject matter that they need to teach. I don't know that we have found that perfect system yet. Obviously, we have not, but we do need to make sure that each child learns what they need to learn and has a great experience.
The next question will begin with Ms. Dixon. Is there a need for charter schools in District 4?
So District 4 right now has 7 schools that are in review status and 1 school that's in target status. If your child was going to a review status school or a target status school, would you not want another option? I know I would. So yes, I would welcome Stride.
As I said before, I think charter schools offer a choice. So if we had a charter school in District 4, it would offer a choice for those parents to select another option for their students. And I think that if that were the case, then that I would welcome that.
I visited most of the schools that are in our district, and they are beautiful. I saw the students, I talked to the teachers, I met the principals, and I just cannot imagine that we need, yet again, to dilute our resources with more charter schools unless there is a need for a special need by a group of students for a special need for a large group of students. Because charters do have a place, but they do not need to be in every area. And I think District 4 is very strong right now and pretty stable.
Ms. Shepherd, the next question will begin with you. What is your view on differentiated pay for teachers?
Differentiated pay is a lot like in the workforce when you are going above and beyond the call of duty, when you are excelling, when you are actually meeting your goals and then some. I think that could be used as a great advantage for our teachers. I see no problem with differentiated pay. I know that on most school levels, mostly on the high school levels, we reward our teachers who take on extra activities, or maybe a band director or a coach or something like that, and we reward them for that. I see no problem with that.
In some cases, I can see where that would be, it would be a viable reason to reward a teacher, but yet each class and each school has such a diverse student population, and the challenges are so different. So to award one school or one teacher over another because the challenges are greater or less seems like not a very equitable way to choose for a reward program.
I believe that we need to retain good teachers, and sometimes differentiated pay will do just that. It will make our good teachers want to stay. So I think if it's used, if it's done fairly and across the board, I think it's a good option. I think it's something that we need to do.
How do you feel about education reform organizations working at the state capitol who are trying to implement policies that will help school choice?
Education should be in the hands of the parents and the communities. I do not believe that it should be in the hands of a lobbyist or a legislature or our politicians.
Well, the word is school choice, so who's going to choose? It's not the politicians that's making the choice. They want to help families make choice. So I'm in perfect agreement with that. I think allowing school choice for our children and our families is what's going to help Nashville grow. It's going to help retain more families in Nashville. So I think that it's a really good way to make sure that school choice is an option for our families.
In this last legislative session, there were over 400 bills filed just around education. Those bills were filed by lobbyists and organizations who spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to influence our legislators to make the decisions that they want them to make, not what we want to make, what they want them to make. We need to keep local control local. We need to make sure that we get to make the decisions around our children, not somebody who's working on the state capitol, but us.
Ms. Dixon, the next question will begin with you. If elected, how often do you feel it is important to visit each of the schools in your district to speak with administration, to teachers, to students?
I believe that it's very important to visit that school as often as possible. And if elected, I would make it my business to visit the school at least twice a month. I think that you have to Go to the schools, listen to their concerns. But not only their concerns, you need to also listen to the parents' concerns. So I would make it my priority to visit the school at least twice a month.
Well, visiting the schools and attending all the programs and getting to know the students is actually the fun part of being on the school board, because that really is an extra perk that we get as a school board member. We're not in the building to help manage that building. The principal has that task. We're not in the building to be an ear for teachers to either praise and or complain. We can listen, but keeping in mind that we have one employee, and that employee is the director of schools. If we want to implement policy, if we want to have the schools take on a certain task or take on a certain curriculum, that is his job, not our job, or her job, not our job. But like I said, being in the schools is the fun part. I do it quite often. You can ask any principal in my district, and there are 17 schools in this district, so it's a fun job. It's a fun part of my job, but it's a perk rather than part of the job.
Getting ready for this forum and for the campaign, I visited a lot of schools. I was very fortunate to be able to meet with a few of the PTO groups, although between TCAP testing and proctoring and end-of-year parties and field days, it was very difficult for me to meet with anyone, but I did enjoy meeting them, and I don't see how you can understand the different schools unless you are there in person, because you need to talk to the people, you need to see what's going on. And I did have people tell me that they had never met one of their school board members, which I know that that's not, I think that they were very excited to see the campaign and the interest in the campaign. I think that it's very important, because I don't know how you can do your job unless you have a personal experience with the people that you're representing.
Ms. Shepherd, you will begin the next question. In your opinion, where does the proverbial buck stop when it comes to low student achievement, low graduation rates, and low college going rates?
That buck stops with the director of school. It is his responsibility to make sure that we have plans, we have curriculum, we have everything in place that students need in order to have a successful experience. We need to direct him or her to make sure that we have rates of graduation that are acceptable, to make sure that we have ACT grades that are acceptable, to make sure that we have schools that are not on target status. That is his job. He needs to make sure that the people in central office on Bransford Avenue know that it's part of their job. He is to help hold them responsible. We are to hold him or her responsible.
As I visited the schools, there is a communication disconnect. So even though the bottom line may be with Dr. Register, or at the top line actually, because it filters down, the buck stops with the parents. And the parents want their children to achieve. They constantly told me that, and in the elementary schools, there's a very good communication. There's a good line of communication. But when you get to middle school, they tell me that there's not, it's like the children have grown up and they're not getting information from the schools. And I'm not for sure, I didn't talk to as many high school students, but we need to keep an open line of communication and work through so that we know where the students are, and then that information can come back through the school board and direct Dr. Register to do his job more properly.
I have to agree with Ms. Shepherd. The superintendent is responsible for the schools and their outcome. So the buck stops there. We just have to make sure that he or she does his job.
And the next question will begin with Ms. Swanner. The current state of the school board seems to be in disarray. How will you change that?
I think that a lot of the disarray is over lack of communication and understanding. There needs to be a common goal, and if everyone is working for the same end, which should be the betterment of our children and a better education for our children, then there should not be any. There's always debates and difference of opinions, but you really need to have a common goal. And until those goals are all set, then you might have some situations that would become unproductive. And that is what I would bring, because I understand through my international experiences, working with 60 distributors in a global market with different languages. It was very difficult sometimes, but we all got along well, and my job was to make sure that everything happened well, smooth, to keep them, because it was our business.
You know, we need strong leadership to make sure that the board stays on task. The task being our children. We need to make sure that quality education delivered to our children is the only thing that we need to focus on. And that should be a unified vision, and we need to make sure that that vision is shared at the beginning, in between, and in the middle. So as long as we stay focused on what's very, very important, which is educating our children, I think we'll have a unified board. You can get more done when you both, when everyone is in agreement and just concentrate and focus on those things that we all share in common. And I believe that's everything. I believe that educating our children is what should be the focus of every member on the board.
All 9 of us need to be on the same page. All 9 of us need to realize what our jobs are. All 9 of us need to realize what our form of policy governance is. Everybody needs to check their agendas at the door and make sure that we tend to the business at hand, which is educating each and every one of our children. And when that happens, we will all be successful.
And we are about out of time, so we'll give each candidate 1 minute to share any parting thought, beginning with Ms. Dixon.
You know, I grew up in a very large urban district, much bigger than Nashville. I came through the public school system. I got my high school diploma and my college degree. I am raising a granddaughter, and I'm responsible for what's happening to her as far as education goes, and anything else, because I am raising her. What I would want to make sure that you understand is that I really have skin in this game, and you too. If you're here, you're interested in what's happening to our school. So I'm in this game to win it. You're in this game to win it. And I'm not going to stop until we all win it. Making sure that our students, our children, have access to good quality education, no matter where they live in Nashville.
First of all, I want to thank the Chamber, the Nashville Chamber, MNEA, and the Urban League for sponsoring this debate. Obviously, my opponents and I are very passionate in and around education. I think we all can tell that. Thank you for being in attendance. And I will just say that in the last 4 years, I think that I have really done a very good job. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I think that public education for our students is keen. It's key to making sure that we have the workforce that we need when our children graduate from college and get into the workforce. So we need to keep our eye on that ball and make sure we don't lose sight of that.
Nashville is my home. I plan on living here until the day I die. And this is my 4th generation. We've lived here for 4 generations. And I went to school here. I attended Donaldson Elementary, McGavock Elementary. I went to Donaldson High. I took a class right here in this building. And then I was the first graduating class from McGavock High, the first comprehensive high school. And it was a great shock, let me tell you. Over the years, I have seen changes, good and bad. And I see some things that need to be changed. So I would appreciate your vote. And I am so glad to have been here. This is my first time to run for political office, and it probably shows, but I hope that everyone will take away what each of us have said today, because all of us have passion, and we want what's best for our children. Thank you.
We'd like to thank each of our candidates for taking the time to share your positions with us and for allowing us to get to know you a little bit better before we go to the polls on August the 7th. But I also want to thank our audience for being a part of this process. You're an important part. We'd like to also thank our host for making these school board forums possible, the Urban League of Middle Tennessee, the Metropolitan Nashville Education Association, and the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce, and also, of course, Two Rivers Middle School. And this concludes our program. Thank you.